Man, you cannot marry a woman without gills. You're from two different worlds. Oh, I've wasted my life.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and every once in a while I'll do some content on about the industry, maybe something I find that isn't right. Simple things like misprints, and people will come back in the comments and be like, "Those margin lines, you could still read the comic." It's like, okay, or even with all the market speculators and the way I think some retailers, not all retailers, some retailers abuse the trust of their customers, maybe don't fill all their pull boxes so they can sell hot comic books at an elevated price, or even or putting hot comics at elevated prices on opening day, on the day that they're made available. Just things like that. People will always defend the industry. Well, that's how it's been done for 20 years. And this is my thoughts. And I just think as a comic fan, you can and should expect better. And here to talk with me about this is a man that owned his own several comic book shops, is about to get back into the business, has a wonderful YouTube channel of his own, talks about comics all the time. Perch himself, the Poobah of comics. Perch, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me on, and I can't agree more with your opening statement.
It's very interesting. Now, before I get into the details, if you haven't subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy this. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, we want to hear your comments in the your opinions in the comment section. Now, Perch, it almost feels sometimes like comic book readers, comic book fans have like Stockholm syndrome, where they've begun to like feel for the people that are kind of screwing them over. It's like just expecting a comic book not to have the margin lines printed. That is minimum expectations. Expecting a comic book when you open it not to pop out of the staples. Expecting a decent quality paper for the cover. Expecting your retailer not to take advantage of you when you've been a loyal customer, or even if you're not a loyal customer, if you've just gone into the comic shop, to feel like you're getting a fair deal does not feel like it's too much. But there are so many people out there. Whenever I put any of this content, and they're definitely going to be in the comment section here, they're like, screw you, Wes. You must not be a real fan because you're not willing to put up with garbage.
Yeah, I think what's happened in our industry is, and it's happened in lots of communities, is that people who complain, if you complain, if you're negative about something, if you say something is wrong, then you're bad. It's not that you have a legitimate gripe. It's not that there's something wrong. It's that you are a bad, evil person. You're trolling. You're harassing. You're doing something wrong. And it's where you get into these things like, don't you realize these people work hard? They deserve to make mistakes. It's like, nobody's saying that somebody who makes a mistake with printing over the margin line should be taken out to the streets and shot. We're saying it's stupid for a major company who produces millions of pages of comics to make those kinds of mistakes. That shouldn't happen. Quality control should be good. Nobody's asking for these people to be fired and made homeless. Nobody's asking for or any of this stuff. If you make the mistake again and again and again, maybe you are asking to be fired. But again, nobody's wanting evil to descend upon these people. It's simply a problem. But in our current world, it's like you either love it or you wish somebody did. And it's like there's no in between. And I say that kind of facetiously because most people realize there's an in between. Like 99% of the people understand that somebody can make a mistake. It's not good. It deserves to be called out, but the person shouldn't be, shot over it. And they should try and do better next time. Most people are reasonable. But it's like you say, I get the same thing in my comments as well of people coming in. They say, you're complaining about DC's marketing. Why don't you just shut up and like the comics? It's like, but the marketing is bad. I am going to enjoy the comics. Thank you. I will. But the marketing is still bad. You can live in both worlds at once. That's not a fence sitter position. It's not a middle of the road position. It's simply I expect more. And as a fan, you should expect more. It's your money. You should expect you're getting value for your money. And if somebody makes a mistake, why hide it? That doesn't help anything.
Yeah, there's a couple of things in my life that I value very greatly. Obviously, my family is one of them. But my time and my money, I value very greatly. In my opinion, DC, Marvel, Image, Boom, all these publishers and the people, if you're on Kickstarter, you're on Indiegogo, you should be out there competing for my money. You should make it so easy for me to give you my money because your product is so good, because the quality of the production is so good, because the stories are engaging, or even just because I like you, because you know what? Whenever I talk to this guy on the internet, he's just a swell guy. Or when I complained, he acknowledged it. Did he change anything? Well, probably not, but he didn't call me a dick for it. You know, and on as far as Kickstarter and Indiegogo, I see people out there that are 2 and 3 years late on campaigns, like trying to take other people to test. It's like 3 years late. Are you kidding me? You think I'm ever going to give you a dime again? Like, get out of here.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that, that's a good example, because if you had a campaign, if you did a crowdfunded book and you're late, you should admit that you're late. What's always weird to me is when you have somebody come up who gets very defensive and angry when somebody says, "Hey, your stuff's late. I haven't got my book. I paid for it like 2 years ago. What's going on?" And I'm not talking late like a week or a month. And I'm not talking late like, 3 months have gone by and the creator or whoever did this campaign is in good communication with their customers saying, "Hey, there's a problem with the printer." Obviously 2020 had tons of problems. We're trying to get this out and this quality wasn't good. I'm not going to release a substandard product. That's why it's late. People forgive those kinds of things if there's communication, but when it's like 3 years late and the creator and the creator's fans are aggressively telling the person who put their money in to go piss off because they're upset with no communication, that's ridiculous. There's no excuse for that. And it is that kind of Stockholm syndrome. Fans, there are fans who are like, well, I guess I just have to take this. I guess I paid my money and I just have to take somebody stealing it for 3 years and not communicating. And I mean, what goes on with that? That's an absolutely ridiculous way.
I truly believe that there are people that are so dedicated to comics and they love the hobby. They love the medium. They love the storytelling so much. And they think if they don't support it, it's just going to die. And I hate to break it to them, comic books aren't going away. As long as there's somebody that wants to create, pictures, put words on them, you've got comics. Now, they might not always be, exactly how they are today, but comics aren't going anywhere. You can expect more. You could expect a little bit of professionalism. You could expect a better product. You could expect people not to take advantage of you. And I really think it is the fear a lot of times that keeps people kind of in line. You know what I mean? Yeah,
no, there's a fear, because if you complain even about legitimate things, you can get dogpiled about it, about being, a bad person, about all these different things, about not being a true fan. There's a long list of things where people are going to come after you for what could be legitimate complaints. And I've watched people on social media say, "Hey, $4.99 is too expensive for my wallet for this comic company." And I've seen people fiercely come after those, that point of view. Like, shut up. Don't you realize that this is somebody's livelihood? Don't you realize that somebody is taking their time to draw comics with a pencil and it's really time consuming and everything else? That's ridiculous. If you think about it, I mean, that's just a ridiculous point of view. And I think it's perfectly legitimate to say, hey, printing errors shouldn't be there. Hey, and even I think there's a major difference between criticism and cruelty. And criticism is maybe legitimate. It may be only for you, or you may be speaking for a number of people, where you're critical about a printing error or comics costing too much or page counts. Maybe this comic has fewer pages because we're filling it up with data sheets and no art at all. Or maybe this drawing looks really poor compared to where comics were at 5 years ago. That could be critique. Cruelty is kind of this next level, and not that many people dip into cruelty. That this is where you're actually going after somebody personally, and you're insulting them on a personal level, or you're saying that there's a line here, and I don't think it's that mysterious. But when criticism gets lumped in with cruelty, I think that's a dumb defensive technique people use to avoid taking any criticism at all. And fans should expect more from comics and from this industry.
Yeah, it's strange. And anytime you make like a complaint, a lot of times the creators or people in the industry, "Oh, you must be a comic skater. Yeah, he's just CG. Look at him. He's just a Nazi. He's a this. He's a that." It's like, really, I'm just a customer.
Sure.
I'm only representing myself, and if you go in the comments, there might be some of my viewers that agree with me. Obviously, I put my opinions out there. There are a lot of my viewers that disagree with me vehemently on some of the things I believe, and there are a lot of viewers that agree with most or some of the stuff. We never agree on everything, but they always want to lump you into something just so they can disparage your name, and then they can just say, well, his opinion never mattered to begin with because he was always hateful.
Exactly. And that's exactly the plan. And that's the attempt there. And when it gets applied to things like, hey, comic books are exceeding the inflation rate. Comic books are too expensive. And at this rate, it's impossible for this to go on. Or Ten of Swords. Like, hey, this crossover event has 24 issues to it. That's a lot of money. Forget about the content for a minute. That's just a lot for somebody to consume. Hey, it's coming out of a pandemic where things are tight. I think this is too much for me. And being able to say that, I mean, it's an honest take. And to immediately get the, this person's clearly Comicsgate. That's what that's who this person is. Their opinion doesn't matter because they're a hateful person. It's like saying comic books cost too much. It's a hateful person. Well, guess what? Jimmy Palometti and tons of other creators must also be hateful people because they also have started to make comments about how comics are too expensive. Lots of people have. We gotta stop this knee-jerk reaction that any criticism immediately means you must be a baddie and lumped into a terrible group of people and trash, because that's frankly one reason why manga and some of these things outside of traditional Western comics are currently kicking the ass of Western comics, because those businesses seem to be a lot more aligned to what their customers actually want.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about what you're getting behind the scenes, because if you just go out on Twitter and you tweet something, you won't add anybody. It's just me to, my little, I don't even have 2,000 followers. If I tweet something out there that, hey, there was growth in the comic industry, but it wasn't in traditional Western comics, it was in these sectors, you'll have notable creators jump in there and tell you how stupid you are. Now, you've been backing it up with a lot of facts, and it's not even just one chart. You're backing it up with 10 minutes worth of data and kind of breaking it apart. I can't even imagine how much flowback you've gotten for that.
I mean, but it's hard. I mean, at some point you do have to look at a picture and it's like, hey, these are your numbers I'm showing you. It's tough, but it is weird. I mean, when that whole fluff went on with Gleb and kind of the attacks on John Byrne, the response I got from some creators, artists and writers were, oh, here's somebody Perch just trying to gatekeep new fans out of comics for not knowing John Byrne, which wasn't the point at all. The point was, hey, maybe spending, frankly, 3 months attacking somebody in your profession seems kind of hypocritical when you're complaining about that. Anyway, it's just weird. The rules do not make sense. People do not need this stuff to ever tie to logic. It's just got to, it's basically, I want to do what I want. If you're complaining about what I want to do, you're bad and you're hateful and you're stupid and, you should get lost. And the problem is people are getting lost. They're going to places where it's not so hard to be a fan.
It's interesting. You got called a gatekeeper. I've been called a gatekeeper.
Sure.
I don't publish comics.
Yeah, no.
I don't, no one from DC, Marvel, anywhere calls me and says, hey, Wes, have you heard of this creator? I'm thinking about publishing their comic. Do you want to give them the green light? No one's ever consulted me on anything like this. You know why they called me I was called a gatekeeper?
Why?
Because someone wanted to come on my channel. I was like, well, I don't really know you. And I have my own friends. I bring my friends and the people that I know on the channel. Sure. Maybe we should establish a relationship and talk. But, you've been quite rude to me over this, so no thank you. Oh, you're just gatekeeping. You're trying to keep me out of the industry. It's like,
yeah.
What?
These words only have, I mean, this stuff only has as much power as you choose to invest in it. And I think that's the lesson a lot of these folks need to kind of understand, is that they throw these names around and it's basically, they're the only ones who are believing this word. And that is a shrinking group. I get called a gatekeeper for putting those numbers videos up, and people are like, oh, why are you by doing this sales analysis, you're saying that, you're trying to keep people out of the industry unless they're educated about it. And it's like, well, it's a weird argument. I can't even wrap my head around that. It's so
you're
knowledge,
trying to inform the consumers of what's actually going on so they can see through the BS that's being presented to them on a daily basis.
I guess
you're
it's
clearly gatekeeping information.
I'm gatekeeping BS. I don't know. It's a weird world, and none of this makes sense. I think, look, if you're a fan of comics, whether you're new, whether you're old, whether you've been doing it forever or started this month, it's money out of your pocket. And so as a result, you should expect that you're going to enjoy where you're spending your money. And if you don't, you should stop spending your money. That's your choice and your choice alone. And I think fans should have a high bar. There's a lot of sources of entertainment out here, and a lot of people who are working very hard for your money. And including inside of comics, there's a lot of people who work hard for your money.
Absolutely.
And so, make sure that you're giving that money to people who appreciate it. And
just think about it. Two issues of Future State. Or no, we'll go with Infinite Frontier of your Batman title. That's $10. You can do a lot of entertaining with $10 nowadays. In between Netflix, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and let's not even count all the apps that you could download. You could probably get 10 games for $10 nowadays.
Sure. I mean, you can get a subscription to Shonen and have close to, I don't know, it's got to be somewhere around 30.
I bet you could do Shonen and Comixology for $10.
Absolutely. I mean, these are services that are unlimited for a month for all you can read, and it's for close to no money. So the key is you don't have to leave comics. There's plenty of entertainment options within comics, but there's no reason why you, a consumer, should have to put up with somebody telling you that you're bad for wanting more. You should always want more.
Absolutely. And don't feel obligated to the industry. Well, I'm not enjoying this storyline, or this writer isn't right for the character, but I love the character so much that if I stop buying it, the character will never come back. The character is going to come back.
The character will be fine.
You need to send a message. If it bothers you that much, it's time to drop the series. But if you love the character so much and you don't mind giving, spending some money on something that you're never going to read, do that too. It's your hobby. Enjoy enjoy the hobby the way you want to, but don't feel obligated, and don't settle for second best. You should be getting what you wanted, because that is your hard-earned money.
It is, and you absolutely should. I think that at the end of the day, lots of people will learn lessons and improve. Keep in mind, the industry pushed really hard after the Image founders left Marvel and went to Found Image to get people in the mentality of following comics and characters rather than creators. And they did that for a very specific reason. They wanted to be able to swap out creators and change the quality and change the book whenever they wanted to. And you, as a collector, were just going to keep buying it because you follow Spider-Man. So you're always going to buy Spider-Man. And even if they have a terrible creative team on Spider-Man, you as a collector need to just stick with it and put up with it. And eventually it'll get better, but just don't change. And they did that because they want the loyalty to the comic, to the character, not to the creators. Oftentimes I tell this to people: if you're really unhappy with the industry, switch that thinking. Switch away from following characters to following creators. Follow creators that you like, and you'll probably be happy. You'll be a happier person as a result.
Absolutely. I am a writer-driven reader. The artist means a lot to me, but the writer almost always drives it. There are a few things that I'll read that I imagine I'm not going to enjoy, but it's mostly, just for the entertainment factor of putting a video out here on the channel. But it is very similar, just oddly similar, to the UFC and the WWF. The UFC, they realized some of their top acts had too much bargaining power with them as far as getting them in championship fights and like this. So now you're a UFC fan. You're not a John Jones fan. You're not a George St. Pierre fan. The same thing with the WWF. They didn't like the Stone Cold Steve Austin being able to just leave one day and take his ball with him. And now, the last big superstar, I guess that was John Cena.
Yeah.
You're just a WWF fan. But you see with that, just like in comic books, diminished returns over time.
Absolutely. No, people, I mean, you're going to gravitate towards something, and the creative storyteller is important. So.
Absolutely. Well, Perch, I do appreciate you coming on here and talking about, fans, we just have to expect more. And when somebody says they expect more or they ask for more, you don't have to tell us that we were never comic book fans to begin with. You don't have to tell us that this is the way it's been for 20 years and it never needs to change. No. People are entitled to their own opinion. They're entitled to expect more, and they should expect more. That's all I got to say.
They should. Everybody should have standards.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.